What's up guys, JayzTwoCents here, and if you didn't see our last video, I highly recommend you go and check that out before watching this one. And that's where we took a $16 box fan and a bunch of 480 rads from EK water blocks and made an ambient temperature cooling monster. But we thought, we need to upgrade it a little bit. So this is what we've done so far. We've added a little bit of patriotism. And a pinwheel as a flow indicator. Right? If you guys have any questions about whether or not the air is actually flowing, there you go. But we got to thinking, how can we get this sub-ambient? And we noticed whenever the AC vent up there kicked on and blew down onto the radiator, it would start to cool down a little bit more. So we thought, well, 5,500 BTUs might do the trick. With its adjustable PMW 3367 16,000 DPI optical sensor, 4 RGB zones, 9 customizable buttons, and offering both wired and wireless operation are only a few reasons why the Corsair Dark Core RGB should be on your shortlist for your next mouse purchase. Check out its full list of features by clicking the link in the description below. Alright, so hopefully I don't have to assemble too much. We got remote control. Now my first concern was like, well, wait a minute, we don't have a way to separate the intake air from the exhaust air on this. Because typically this is designed to go into a window, it's got this little thing, and it's designed to separate the air coming in versus the air being conditioned. But the space in here is big enough where I think if we just run this under the table or something, it's not gonna be interfering with itself and we'll still get the effect we're looking for. Found my condom. It's not very effective though. Whoa, that's bigger than I thought it was gonna be. Ladies! Thank you for your purchase of this Hisense product. We have made every... one thing to point out, it's 21.9 C right now without the fan running on the fluid temp. I did turn the air conditioner down in here to 68 today because it's supposed to be a warm day, so... So I'm literally just gonna be kind of so just like the way I made my kids, I'm just gonna there we go. Oh come on.
So we finally got the
it's reverse thread. I was threading it the wrong way, but if I bothered to actually RTFM, then that's okay. We don't read the RTFMs here. The fact that Mr. Whoa, I'm standing on the cord. I legit think though that just pointing at it is gonna be plenty. You know what I mean?
I agree.
Okay, so we're gonna start Heaven benchmark here, and some people were concerned that Heaven doesn't put enough heat into the graphics card. It got to the same temperature as what Superposition did, and we are running all of this max. 8x MSAA, extreme tessellation, ultra quality. So I think there's plenty of heat on that. Also too, I wanted to talk about, there were some concerns about whether or not the D5 pump was enough to push all of this. Believe it or not, there's not that much resistance in this loop. Radiators, especially ones this big, like 120s and 140s, obviously, believe it or not, don't put a lot of restriction or resistance in the flow, because if you add up the diameter of all the tubes, remember half of these tubes are going one direction, the other half is going the other direction, and then given the size of the end tanks, the tube's overall surface area is about the same as the internal surface area of a 3/8 inch tube. So these are just like as if we had tubes running. So there's actually not that much restriction. It's the water blocks and the super thin passages they have to go through that put restriction into the loop. So the D5 is plenty for this. In fact, when a bubble moves, it flies through this loop. So the flow rate and the pump is not being exceeded. I just wanted to talk about that. So this is what we're set to in the studio, 69 Fahrenheit, which works out to, and we'll show it right here, Phil, is 20.556 degrees Celsius. So that is our ambient mark. That's where we need the fluid to be below to see if this is gonna work and drop our ambient temps. But as you can see, the fluid is again at ambient temperature, and we proved that in the last video. That's why seeing the first video was important. We have built a big enough radiator system here with a big enough amount of fluid to where we can keep the system itself at ambient temperature. But as you can see, our GPU is about 3C or 3.5 C above ambient. This is about 2C less than it was when we had it set to 71. So it also proves another thing that people like to often, kind of challenge is the coolant temperature and the components temperature and your ambient temperature are 1 to 1. So if we rise 1C in the room, we will go up 1C with our components. If we go up 10C, it'll go up 10C. So that's why with water cooling, if you're gaming in a closed room, when it gets hotter, you'll notice your components getting hotter. So proper ventilation and stuff is obviously important. But this has been running now, I had a stopwatch going, it hasn't been going that long. I mean, it does not heat up, that's the thing. It'll be running 10 minutes and 37 seconds. So what we're gonna do right now is we are gonna point the AC at this and see what happens and how long it takes it to do it. 61 Fahrenheit is the lowest it seems we can get it to go. All right, so we're just gonna let this go and then we'll see what happens. All right, so we ran it for 7.5 minutes before we decided we hit equilibrium. It went down as low as 16.8 and then came back up to 17.1, 17.0. We did get the GPU to drop down to 21C though, but we're still technically at ambient. 20.5 is ambient, so we can't see our fractions there. I do feel an awful lot of air coming off to the side over here though, where it's not being forced through the radiator. So I'm gonna try two things. One, this exhaust, I'm concerned about the warmth coming out of here, which is pretty warm. It's a heat exchanger. What do you expect? It's pulling the heat out of the air, and this is the warmth. We're concerned that this is counterbalancing the effect we're looking for here, where we might be raising the temperature in this area too much. That's why this gets routed outside through a window or a hole in the wall. I'm going to take this, and I'm going to make a ramp, and I'm going to point this up so it goes up there into the ceiling, way up high out of the way. I also want to try ducting off the air on the side of the radiator to see if I can't keep it from splashing off the side. Very similar to how I did my oil cooler in my 370Z. If air hits that and it can't go through because of resistance, and it's just gonna splash off the side. So I feel like a lot of the cold air is being bypassed and not making it through the system. So, yeah. I don't know if that's gonna work. Now it's just getting harder to move around. Recycling, baby. Reduce, reuse, recycle.
So water temp is 14.9 degrees.
Because I have ducted the shit out of it. I probably used $20 in gaff tape in this one project alone. I'm actually surprised. I thought the fan would have had enough pressure to pull the air through, like you saw with the vape, how it just kind of forced it. But no, this fan is actually pushing enough air towards it to where it was splashing off, which is why now we are seeing all of this improvement now by just reducing the amount of air that can escape around the unit. So it's only been about 1 minute since I closed off the heat leaks right here. And look, 18C already on that. Water temp, 14.6. We'll let this go for a little while. We'll see where we balance out. And then we will call this probably the most ridiculous Frankenstein thing I've ever done. But if we were to flip this monitor around the other way and sit right in front of that fan, not only are you cooling the crap out of your PC, you're cooling the crap out of yourself as well. So kind of like how Linus's recent video where he showed how much a computer can heat a room, I guess we're kind of showing how cool your room can be while gaming if you have a stupid amount of money with terrible ROI to throw at it. So on this side of things, obviously you can see the airflow. I feel like I just walked into one of those walk-in refrigerators. It is so cold in here. This side of the room is like really cold. It's like as cold as when we were doing the LN2 overclocking with Kingpin. So we just found something right now where when the compressor kicks on, if we had the fan on the box fan running 100%, we feel like the air isn't spending enough time in the radiators to chill it as much as it can. So we just put the fan on low with the compressor on, and we came down to 13.6. I've seen this go as low as 13.2 when playing around right now, but we actually had this drop now to 17C momentarily and come back up. So I'm gonna turn the fan off entirely, but the first time I did this, by turning the fan off, it really chilled the radiators, but what also happened was a lot of that cold air splashed back at the intake side of the cooler, which then triggers the compressor to turn off because it reached its lowest temperature where it will want to run. The moment the compressor clicked off, the temperatures rose really quickly here back to ambient, like to 20C in a matter of a minute. But look, I just turned the fan off and now we're dropping down 13.3. Our GPU's at 17C, 13.2. And we probably won't see this hit 16C unless we can get this down into the 12s. I don't think that's gonna happen because the compressor isn't gonna run long enough. So again, and there's 13.1, we might be able to do it. If we can just time this right, we might be able to actually hit 16C on the GPU. So it's kind of funny when we had the fan running 100% with the compressor on. Oh, the compressor just turned off. Now watch what's gonna happen to this. Oh, it's 12.9, of course. We didn't hit 16C, but we did hit a steady 17. Do you see that? It stayed at 17. So there's 13.0, 13.1, 13.2, 13.3, 13.4. And now here's the thing. At 13.6, see it's starting to skip. If I turn the fan on 100%, it will go even faster up to ambient because we're running ambient air through something that's now below ambient temperature, so we're actually running warm air through it when it comes to the relative temperature of these parts. So now that the fan is at 100%, watch this. 14.7, 14.8. See how it's speeding up now? Simply because the relative temperature, right? The metal was chilled down into the 50s. The air blowing through there right now is almost 70 degrees. So we are talking nearly 20 degrees of Fahrenheit difference. And now we're at 15.2, 15.3, 15.4. And this will go all the way up to about 20C, which is ambient, like we've already determined. What was the point of this video? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. I mean, we wanted to see if we can get sub-ambient on the GPU. We achieved that. You can see now we're back above ambient because our coolant is no longer going to be below ambient. So we've always seen about a 3 to 4 degrees difference between the coolant temperature and the component temp. So there's a little bit of science behind this, an extremely crude, unscientific way. But this was more like a what happens if type of video. So if you guys have any suggestions of what happens if, even if they sound ridiculous, put them in the comments below. I mean, after all, we did this, right? We're willing to do this. We're willing to really sell ourselves to do anything for the sake of views. So with that said, guys, subscribe if you're new around here. Like this video if you enjoyed it. We hope to see your suggestions. So there is, and the compressor just kicked back on. Whatever. We're gonna let this go, guys. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next one. And it only costs $500.